Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force Base has been on the military meme pages on a continuous blast over some of the division that she's created of single mothers, which you would not expect, and some of the finest elite fighting force in our U.S. military, the PJs, which could be landed into a combat zone required to not only provide life-saving care, but also rescue service members that are trapped in enemy fire areas. Since the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force's previous encounters with trolls on the internet back in October, she's been trying to do a better public image in public affairs and reaching out to ensure transparency amongst the airmen that are out there and recognizing them. She says, "Teammates, I'd like to give a shout out to a senior airman, Jamie Samuels, a religious affairs airman assigned to the 56th Fighter Wing Chapel at Luke Air Force Base. I have not yet had the privilege to meet senior airman Samuels, but I've heard a lot about her. Specifically, how she saw a need at Luke Air Force Base and decided to organize and lead a retreat for single parents, along with this fun-filled retreat at Top Golf. She also conducted a survey of a single parents that made its way to our Chief of Chaplains here at the Pentagon. Her findings made it clear that we have work to do in caring for our single parent community, and according to our Chaplains Corps, they are all in. Thanks for making a difference, Senior Airman Samuels, and the well-written article on the hats you wear. Now, please put on your Inspired Someone hat right now because you have truly inspired me. Keep doing great things. I'm honored to serve with you." We all have hats we wear. Our different roles, jobs, and responsibilities is determined which we wear. These past 2 years, my collection has been more than tripled. February 16, 2009, a new hat added to my collection. My daughter was born at 29 weeks. Wearing this new mom hat meant I had to be strong enough to hold my family together. For the next 3 months of her NICU stay, this hat took precedence over the one I wore just myself or my marriage. This hat was heavy on my shoulders. I wore mine for everyone else while nobody seemed to wear theirs for me. By the way, I am sympathetic to this. Having a child in a neonatal intensive care unit is an intense process. Imagine you're having a perfectly born child that you're hoping is going to come out and you don't, and they have to sit in there and be on ventilators or whatever else that goes on to make sure that they're able to stay alive and possibly thrive at some point. So I'm not being unsympathetic to the situation. Definitely want to say that in this post. Fast forward 3 months, my next hat came. My stay-at-home mom hat since I was on maternity leave. My daughter's father is a pararescue, meaning he's deployed or TDY most of the year, but took on extra assignments to avoid wearing his dad hat. That left me a new mom of a preemie who had 3+ weekly appointments all 2 hours away. More time went by and I was back to work. My first day was also my first day of Airman Leadership School. I was worried her dad wouldn't remember her appointments, pumping every couple hours and trying my best to stay awake. This new hat was working my mom hat by day and full-time mom hat by night. I did everything since her dad's job somehow became more important than mine. So why would I need sleep? Sounds like there's a communication issue of you're both in the military. He's a pararescueman. You're obviously a senior enlisted person as well. That is going to come into play that both careers have to balance, and this is a co-parenting situation. I kind of see the turn of her own personal bias there, and I could see how, like, if there's somebody that is dealing with her husband now, they're going to say, you're not that great of a father, or looking badly on pararescuemen because they have to go do their jobs, which obviously does take precedence in a realm that we all understand when we raise our right hands. He purposely chose these tasks to get out of the task of being a father. And by the way, we have no information from him on his status or his thoughts of this post either to really talk about that. Advanced Leadership School graduation night arrived. When my name was called for the Academic Achievement Award, I was in shock. For the first time, I was the one recognized. That moment, I had worn a hat I had not seen in a long time. The hat that was just for me. The proud of myself hat. The next morning after graduation, my next hat was delivered. The single working mother hat. My husband packed his bags and left his daughter and me behind with the divorce to be finalized 9 days later. Obviously, that is detrimental to your ability to provide for your child and going to have issues with finding care, having to find issues with lawyers, having to divide assets. Yes, we understand. Very tough situation. Shortly after, I got word my daughter and I were moving to Luke Air Force Base on an EFMP medical move. After a few weeks on station, COVID-19 hit and my daughter soon tested positive. She had to be placed on oxygen due to respiratory issues and I was absent from work for a long time. Out came my moral dilemma hat. If I was thinking about my daughter, it was hard to think about work. If I was thinking about work, it was hard to think about my daughter. How could I win? I've made more sacrifices than I thought possible. Still, I wear these hats proudly. A chef, teacher, police officer, doctor, entertainer, maid, taxi, ATM, but my favorite is being my daughter's role model. She sees these hats drenched in blood, sweat, and tears, loving me for the mom I am today. When I picked her up for daycare, she bulldozes her way through to get me. I am her whole life, and there is no better hat worth wearing. However, there are single mothers out there that don't think she represented a lot of the Air Force appropriately with some of the statements she made, kind of dividing her own bias by telling her story relating to the religious ministries person. Chief Base has made a disappointing mess. She praised an airman without any regard for the truth of the other airmen involved. She reposted the airman's story trashing her ex-husband on Facebook. Once she received criticism for the post, Chief Base removed the airman's words, deleted comments, and stood by her post. This is interesting because the U.S. Army esports team recently is getting flamed for the issues of them deleting or banning people on their Twitch account talking about different slurs and things like that because they were trolling. And now you have also a senior enlisted person that's now doing that and they're acting in the official capacity of their rank. Are we going to continue to say that these people that have social media accounts that are in official government positions, are they able to block these people? Are they able to delete comments? Because obviously that does question the freedom of speech things. As a woman in the Air Force, this is not the culture change I want to see. I do not want to see our highest levels of leadership picking sides and posting about our family members. I do not want to see a culture where you are praised for lies and whatever story you can create. I can already see the chaos if it all takes is one person with a sob story to destroy someone's reputation. I understand Chief Base meant to make a shout out to a single mother and their hardships, but there are many single parents, mothers and fathers, and she needs to vet the person before publicly praising them. I'm saddened to see that she couldn't see the harsh, one-sided story with serious red flags. No one gets divorced in 9 days. It is a shame that instead of promoting a culture where it's okay to admit you made a mistake and take personal responsibility for it, Chief Base decided to still stand by her post and the questionable airman. And to be fair, this is not one single anecdotal evidence of what's occurring. It looks like there are other people that are speaking out against this airman as well on Facebook, and some of the comments that were deleted were this. With all due respect, perhaps your team can research Jamie Samuels more extensively before providing praise on your public platform. I'm afraid there is more to the story, a story that uplifts one airman at the expense of another. Many of us witnessed firsthand the destruction her actions had on multiple airmen with our installation in Air Force family, not to mention the effects her actions had on her husbands. I recommend contacting the 26th STS Command and or the 27th SOW chaplain staff for character references. Another comment says, Chief Base, I don't think you would have pleasure in meeting Airman Samuels. In fact, her article couldn't be further from the truth. Her absent husband did everything to care for their daughter with all his heart, soul, and mind, especially during their hospital stay after the premature birth. He actually fought for their marriage but was served with divorce papers while TDY and was absolutely heartbroken. All this while Jamie was having an affair on him. Despite him conceding to all her demands in order to preserve his parental rights, she attempted to block him completely out of their daughter's life. This wonderful airman is one of the most manipulative people I've ever met, and is evidenced by the article she wrote. I know all of this firsthand, having been evil pararescueman, Staff Sergeant Samuel's supervisor, and guiding him through this horrible experience. Be aware, there is more to the story than is being thrown out there. I highly suggest you reach out to the Cannon Air Force Base chaplain staff for whom Senior Airman Samuels worked. No doubt they would gladly testify to her troublesome behavior, multiple affairs, ongoing discipline issues, and trouble she brought to the chaplain staff. She is by no means a representation for what a single parent in the Air Force should strive to be. There are so many single airmen who deserve credit, many long hours dedicated to their family. Unfortunately, Senior Airman Samuels' situation was completely of her own making. This is going so far right now that they have actually shared a police mugshot photo of the Curry County Detention Centers, which shows her by the name of Jamie Ramirez. So this is going to be They don't say exactly why she was arrested or kind of show those kinds of things, but I do want to say this is going to get even more interesting because there is a sit-down and coffee talk with the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. It's going to be happening here in a couple hours pretty much, and I will not be awake to see it because I'm here in Japan. But to lead into this story, there is a bias that you could see from the story that was being told there that could divide some of the pararescuemen, and you actually do see some of the pararescuemen that are coming out to the defense of the father of this child that she shared the story of. Looking at this story, I can tell you people are pissed off, and I understand they're pissed off. And to vet all this information, is the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force going to call up every base now of every post she shares? It's kind of hard because the expectation is that the people below her kind of should be doing that, and I don't know who the public affairs team is or if this was a direct from the chaplain to her. Do we question every character that's out there? And to be honest, I think this is Chief Master Sergeant Base being caught in the crossfire, which is very unfortunate. And at the same time, I don't want to give a pass and say that there wasn't some bias in the story that she told, but it did correlate with the story, what she thought was a positive thing. But it's tough because you see the Sergeant Major of the Army that is sitting there going to lengths to put himself through memes and everything else to say, like, you're not getting beards. And you see also the Chief of Naval Operations poking fun as well. But just for some reason, the Air Force is not getting that together. I don't know what the team is doing over there. Everybody has their truths, right? And they can all exist in the same circle. And that's a very tough concept to agree with. Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force can have a position that her previous husband was not a great dad. And that could be true in her eyes. That's her perspective. We weren't there with him, right? But sadly with this, it did divide a community. It divided the Air Force community. A lot of people are very proud of the pararescuemen that are out there doing some of the most dangerous work out there. I feel like compared to SEALs and MARSOC and all these other areas, they get some of the least credibility out of any of the branches. So please check them out if you'd like. I would definitely say if you're interested, go for that community. Yes, you're gone a lot like these women have stated, but honestly, we need to support them as much as we can. And that does come at a cost. As you are married to someone that's in the Air Force and you're already Air Force, guess what? It's not like you were forced to marry them. 1, 2, you already had a heads up of how their schedule was going to be. You kind of were like, okay, you're the elite. You are the people that are going to go out and deploy more than anyone else, than the person that's sitting at a chapel passing out donuts and cookies or whatever else, and allegedly doing some other bad stuff while your husband's doing that. There is a post that she has made on Facebook. I will summarize it basically right here, where she has said, as much as we've had the social media breakout where people are able to talk to whoever they want to in the chain of command, do we still teach it? I know when I came in, we were still teaching that. Yes, we are still teaching that across every branch. The tool of social media, I think if you're looking at it from the negative and you're positioning it in that way, you're going to lose the battle. It's kind of like saying you have an open door policy without actually exercising the open door policy. If you need me to work for the public affairs office for the Air Force, I will do it. I can make so many good memes. Just hire me. Please, I will do the work for you. But what do you guys think about this? I mean, do you guys have any sympathy, or do you think that there has been this huge divide created by some of these senior enlisted leadership here? I'd love to know your guys' thoughts down below, and definitely, what side you guys fall on, because obviously I do want to say she's gone through some hard times, and obviously I do think it's blown up on her face, but there is also personal responsibility of what you share and don't share on the social media platforms, and that comes from even the highest ranking person down to the E1. But as always, if you guys do have questions about this or anything else, you can hit me up on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, or down in the comments below. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.